Hey, everybody, the show is officially on its winter break, coming back in January with the first episode of the year, always my yearly theme. But I thought I would do a bonus episode for you. I spent a good amount of time over the last couple of weeks putting automations in place for the holidays. This is always something I love to do. We decorate our house really big for Christmas, and my favorite part of the decorations is getting everything to turn on and off automatically based on a bunch of things. So, I thought it would be fun in this episode, it's going to be a short one, to break down what I'm using for my Christmas decorations and how I'm automating those things and hopefully give you some ideas for either this year or next year. In How I Built It Pro, I'm going to get pretty deep into the shortcuts I created for this. So if you want even more about how I'm automating through shortcuts and the home app, sign up for How I Built It Pro over at howibuilt.it/pro. It's $5 a month or $50 a year, and you will get ad-free extended episodes of all of the episodes of this podcast, and you'll also get a few bonuses like live stream replays and things like that. I'm also really considering a Discord, someplace where we can chit chat, but I'm not going to fully commit to that yet. But what I have fully committed to, ad-free extended episodes, live stream replays, and a couple of other goodies. So sign up over at howibuilt.it/pro. So let's get into automating the holidays. But first, let's get into the intro. Hey, everybody, and welcome to How I Built It, the podcast where you get free coaching calls from successful creators. Each week, you get actionable advice on how you can build a better content business to increase revenue and establish yourself as an authority. I'm your host, Joe Casabona. Now let's get to it. Okay, so first of all, let's get into why you would want to do this. There's this scene in Home Alone where Marv and Harry are sitting in their van, and they're just watching the automatic timers go on for all of the houses, right? So this is one simple reason, right? Yeah, you can get one of these automatic timers, but you can make it a little bit smarter with home automation, right? So for example, all of my lights, all of my scenes turn on 10 minutes before sunset and then turn off automatically at 11 p.m. and then they turn back on around 5 or 6 a.m. kind of before everybody wakes up and comes downstairs, and then they turn off automatically again shortly after sunup. So you can also create exceptions, right, where on Christmas Day, for example, they don't turn off. They're on all night. So that's an exception that you can make that you can't really do with a dumb automatic timer. So that's one reason you might want to do that. The other is more fun, sophisticated stuff. Starting a specific playlist when you set a scene, or turning the lights on or off when somebody leaves the house, turning music on when somebody walks in and it's sundown, things like that. Those are fun things you could do. We'll explore some of the automation stuff a little more in How I Built It Pro. So first, I want to tell you a little bit about, I want to tell you a little bit about the setup and what I did. So first of all, we have outside lights. We have some blow up things in our yard, and we have one of those swirly kind of light show things that people put on the sides of their houses now. So all of that's outside. And then inside we have our tree with the lights, of course. And then we've decorated our staircase. That's the best place for our stockings. And we have this little Christmas village that I'm almost certain is older than me, where the lights turn on and it moves. We also have our nativity scene, which is spotlighted. So those are the extra decorations we put up. Well, the electronic decorations that we put up. Right, there's lots of other stuff, garland and whatever. We went pretty ham this year. But then I also have these hue color lights, right? And so I have them become a certain color at a certain time, lots of reds and greens, but also whites for like the snow. So those are part of, for all intents and purposes, the those are part of the Christmas scenes this year. So that's what I did. We have our outside and our inside lights and decorations and things like that. The gear that I used, I just mentioned, mostly Philips Hue stuff. So if I'm going inside first, we're using standard Christmas bulbs. Philips Hue just did put out this year, they put out smart Christmas lights. Don't really think I need that. But our Christmas tree, our Christmas village, and our staircase decorations are all plugged into smart plugs. They are mostly Miros, but there are a couple of Wemo that I've had for a few years. None of them require a hub. This is what I really like about Miros's footprint is smaller, so I really like that. But the Wemo switches I have also don't require the hub. The Wemo hub has not worked very well for me. Not that all of that's going to make a bunch of difference soon because of the new Matter standard that's coming out. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in How I Built It Pro as well. So the inside stuff is all these indoor switches. And then the outdoor switches are also smart switches, but they're like built for the elements, right? They're these outside switches. One is Wemo and one is Miros. I had an iClever one, but the iClever one did not work with HomeKit. And that's one of my requirements, is that everything has to work with HomeKit and the Apple Home app, because that is how I automate everything. I automate everything through the Home app and shortcuts. So those are the switches. The Philips Hue lights. In the upstairs, there is a color bulb in our reading lamp. There is a spotlight in the other corner of the living room that lights up the nativity scene. And then under our TV, there are these two longer lights that kind of work in tandem with each other. So those are the 4 lights in the living room. And then my recording light has also become part of the Christmas decorations. So those are the 5 color bulbs that will light up a certain way to set the scene and things like that. So that's all the gear. And then in my office, I have all of my Philips Hue stuff too. I also have that become Christmassy. I have a few decorations in my office. So that's all the gear. I will link all of that in the show notes, which you can find in your app or over at howibuilt.it/22B1. That's 22B for bonus 1. So that's where all of the show notes will be. I'll link to all of that gear. I mentioned earlier, right, kind of how I'm using it, the overall setup. So at 10 or 15 minutes before sundown, I automatically have everything turn on through the Home app. That includes all of the smart switches. And then with Philips Hue, the reason I like Philips Hue is because in the Philips Hue app, you can create or download these scenes. And so there's one called Under the Tree, which is like green and red and gold. So I have that turned on upstairs, and then I have another scene turn on downstairs. So that happens at sundown, and then at 11 p.m., all of that automatically turns off. This is all through home automations. And then around 5:30, I think, I could probably make this a little smart and say like an hour before sunup, turn them back on again. And then we'll say like a half hour after sunup, turn them off again. But right now that's more of a manual process. So that's an improvement that I can make. So that's everything. That's my whole setup. I've downloaded a couple of scenes from Philips Hue to make it very Christmassy. I rely on the lighting and the lights for that. The thing I like about Philips Hue too is that when you use those scenes, the colors rotate around all of the bulbs in the room. So the one of the lights will transition from green to red, and at the same time, the other bulb will transition from red to gold, and et cetera, et cetera. So it gives everything a nice little feel. There's also I created a custom scene for like the fireplace because we also have a fireplace app for our TV. We don't have a real fireplace in our house because there's no chimney. There's no way to get. There used to be a fireplace in our house, and we asked the old owners how they managed that, and they're like, oh, we just opened the window. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work for us. That defeats the purpose of the fireplace because it's supposed to like keep us warm. But also, like, we have small children, like we can't really risk that. So that's the overall setup. If I want to talk about improvements that maybe I want to make, I just mentioned one, which is I'd love to, and I'll probably just do this today after I record. I'll probably make the lights turning on and off a little bit more dependent on sunup and sundown, except for like the 11 o'clock hard stop. And I have to put the exception in for Christmas Day. So there's that. A couple of ideas for you, right? If you want to take it to the next level, this is the stuff I'm going to go deeper to in Pro. But one of the things that you can do with home and home automation is turn music on. So, on Christmas Day, for example, at 6 a.m. or 7 a.m., whenever you want to start Christmas, you can have all the lights turn on and then have your favorite playlist play in Apple Music, which I think is really cool. I have a couple of manual automations. So, if it's like a rainy day, like the one I'm recording on now, and I want the Christmas lights on or off, I can turn on Christmas. I say, hey, assistant, turn on Christmas. It asks me if I want to play music, and I say yes or no. And if I say yes, it picks the playlist that I like the best. But there's a few benefits to this, right? There's power saving benefits, right? You're not running the electricity more than you have to. It's a lot more dynamic, so you can, properly move these lights and create really nice looking scenes without having to buy a whole bunch of extra stuff. And there's all sorts of different gear that's available to you now. So one of the things I could get, so something I didn't mention about the Christmas Village is that's all on a power strip, and the power strip is plugged into a Miros plug, a smart plug. Miros and a couple of other places make smart surge protectors where each outlet or each plug on the surge protector is individually controllable. This is probably the next thing I'm going to buy because right now I have everything plugged into a surge protector, but then I also had to separately plug in the Philips Hue light to a separate outlet near there. And our security camera is also over there. So I didn't want to plug that in and turn everything off. Or I didn't want the Philips Hue light to rely on the outlet being on and then like the smart stuff also being on. So that's probably going to be my next improvement, a smart surge protector. Then I can kind of keep that year round for other stuff too. So that's my big improvements. I think that's where I'm going to leave it. I'll put some pictures in the show notes as well. Once again, that's going to be over at howibuilt.it/22b1 for the year 2022 bonus 1. If you want, now there were no ads in this episode because this is a bonus episode, but if you want to get ad-free extended episodes or ad-free extended versions of every episode of How I Built It, you can sign up over at howibuilt.it/pro. In the pro show today, I'm going to walk through my automations. I'll probably share them in the show notes because members have access to my automations library. I'll talk about exactly what my automations do. We'll go through more ideas for implementation. And I'll talk a little bit about Matter and why that, well, matters. So thank you so much for listening to this very special episode of How I Built It. If you liked it, let me know. Give us a rating and review in Apple Podcasts. And like I said, all of the links, everything I'm asking you to do here will be over in the show notes, as well as over at howibuilt.it/22b1. Again, thanks so much for listening. And until next time, get out there and build something.